911, what's your emergency?
Help. An episode of season 6 moved me to tears.
I'll connect you to the hotline.
When she can take direction.
when a diva can take direction, and that's how you know that she's the one that you want for your role. So everybody listening, hire Jane for your productions, hire Jane for your infomercials, hire Jane for your audiobook narration needs. Just hire her, give her money so that she can give me half, or no, I'll take 10% as her agent here.
I'm always saying this, and yeah, I've become an actress since performing in Ryan's 911 fanfiction play that we just put on for the Patreon, if anyone's interested.
Killing it, might I say. Might I say, she owned that role, made it her own. She put a new spin on it. She innovated, and I was just fortunate to work with someone who, takes the material and just gives, just gives. Like, yes, that's what we want to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, go over to the Patreon if you want to hear our very exciting, scintillating 911 fanfics that we were commissioned to write for Pride Month. I thought we did a great job.
I agree. But this week, we're back on the main show to discuss a very compelling episode of 911. This is season 6, episode 3, not season 3,
wow.
Episode 6. Wow. Season 6, episode 3, The Devil You Know, directed by Stephen K. Toshida, which I believe this is his only episode of the show, though I did find that he directed the movie Life Size 2. That's what it's called, right? The Tyra Banks doll movie.
What?
Am I telling you this for the first time?
You're telling me this for the first time. Not only is there a Tyra Banks doll movie, but there's 2 of them?
You never watched Life Size? It was like a Disney Channel original, I think, about this girl who accidentally brings a Barbie doll to life, and she's played by Tyra Banks.
No. Was that before or after my time? When did that come out?
It should have been right in the middle of your time, because it was my time. I remember watching it on TV.
How old were you?
A child. I don't know.
How old were you, Tanya Kingston here? 8 years old, sneaking out to go to the fucking...
Don't joke about Tanya Kingston. To be fair, the movie is from 2000, actually. Okay, it probably wasn't.
Okay, that's before my times. That is Phil of the Future core. That is Even Stevens core.
It starred Lindsay Lohan, and it was a Disney Channel original movie, or a Wonderful World of Disney ABC movie. Somebody's going to be in the comments actually, it's a very important distinction.
Oh, wow. What is the difference there?
I think Wonderful World of Disney used to be a series of TV movies, but they were functionally pretty similar to Disney Channel originals. Anyway, it must have reran a lot on TV, though, because I definitely watched it on Disney Channel, so I still think it's reasonable that you would have seen it as a child. Anyway.
Okay, well, it ain't no Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior.
Apparently there was a legacy sequel in 2018 called Life Size 2, and it was directed by the guy who directed this episode of 911. Anyway, the writer of this episode was Lindsay Bolio, and she ate.
She ate down, okay? Everything that we have said about Lindsay, in the past, it's all been building to this, okay? This is her artistic, culminate. She is so far above, not only most, writers on this show, but just most writers. Oscar Wilde has nothing on this woman.
I mean, we have had our ups and downs with Lindsay. I would say her strengths are these Athena-centric episodes. And also, she, I believe, was the writer of the Rage episode, right? So we can see sometimes some kind of a propaganda instinct in her, which there is a sprinkling of that in here. But
there's a shrug to it. Mm-hmm.
Well, first I want to point out a comment we got from Kyla on the podcast the other day, which was, there's storytelling in the next episode that leads me to believe that the Black writers for season 6 decided to do their big one because they thought it was their last. And I think that's probably true. I believe Lindsay is a Black woman writer. And yeah, Kyla also said something on our YouTube about she suspects that this was more the work of those, that even the foresight to call back to the Tanya Kingston thing from season 2 was perhaps more of a decision on the Black writers' part than a Tim and Kristen thing, which is probably true.
Yeah,
and
probably.
this is a really special episode. And speaking of propaganda, I want to bring up, I have seen people write off this episode as a propaganda episode of like, oh, this isn't a good one because it's just propaganda. And I feel like it goes back to that thing that I think I've talked about before, where sometimes you see people in the fandom write off Athena-centric storylines entirely as propaganda, when like it seems like, even if they're not really that at all, and it kind of just seems like a convenient, like, moralized scapegoat to dismiss episodes that center on
don't
Athena.
have Buddy in them. Yes.
And I'm not saying I don't respect anyone who dislikes this episode. Like, I think, you know, nobody has to like it. And like, if somebody, like, I don't know, the subject matter is like too dark for them or whatever, like that, I'm not going to force anyone to like it. But especially people who dismiss it as like propaganda, or who are like, this isn't what 911 is about. Where's the 118? I am side-eyeing that, because I'm like, why are you so threatened by the Black female lead of this show, like top billing star, being the center of attention for one fucking episode? Like, what's wrong with you?
Like, no, it's actually like, I'm not like necessarily saying like everybody has to like this episode, but if you don't like this episode, I do have questions. And like, I just like to interrogate like why that is, because there seems to be something about this episode that makes it distinct from most other episodes of the show, which is that there's only 2 white characters in this episode, and one's Bobby and one's a flashback cop from the 70s. And also, I do want to say, there is a difference, a functional difference between a story that has cops or a detective narrative and propaganda.
Right.
Like propaganda is a specific thing. Because this episode isn't about the police or policing. The police are involved tangentially. It's about Athena solving this mystery from her childhood. It has much more in common structurally about like those old like Sherlock Holmes stories.
Well, I would say it's primarily about the traumatic event that happened to Athena's community and to that little girl and to her family.
Yes.
And I will say there's like at least one scene that I would say is more explicitly propagandistic, and we'll talk about that. But yes, I would, and the whole thing, it does involve cops, and you could, you know, definitely explore the way it depicts that. But I do think a lot of people in this fandom have like heard that propaganda is a criticism people have of the show sometimes, and they'll run with that as like, oh, I can just use that anytime there's an episode that focuses on Athena, and I'm mad about it because I want my favorite big boys back on screen. When,
you
like,
can just say you want your big boys back on screen. Like, it's fine to say that.
As long as someone just owns that, like, oh, I'm not as interested in the episodes that don't feature the whole 118, like, that's fine. But I don't like acting like it's a problem with the show on the show's part, when it's like, oh, you're telling me they decided to center literally their biggest star, who probably attracts a big audience. Wow, that's crazy. And
also the most awarded star. Like,
well, yes, and the most talented one.
Right, like a literal Oscar nominee, special Oscar winner.
Being the center of attention, like, I'm also happy about that because she's an incredible performer. And like, if there's an Angela Bassett vehicle on this show, I want to watch it, especially when it's something like this, as opposed to you know? As opposed to just like Athena on her beat handcuffing people and stuff. I think this is a welcome change. And like I said, I think it is, as a story, more about like the trauma of the event. And the atmosphere of this whole episode is so rich. I think
such a great use of setting. It's
if you really wanted to get into it, I think it has this commentary on the way men, you know, protect each other in the face of violence against women and children. It's very interesting. And one more thing about people who dismiss it as propaganda: if you are not kind of decrying propaganda all the time in the rest of the show, in other shows, and you're just like you only pull that out whenever there's like an episode that is largely about Athena. I am side-eyeing that. Like, I don't know that you're bringing it up because you care so much about this issue, but maybe more so because you like think it's boring when Athena is on screen instead of the boys, right? And you can just say that, but that's more embarrassing than trying to have like a righteous reason for it.
And what I will say, what a a lack of curiosity on this hypothetical audience member's part.
I'm talking about some IMDb reviews I saw of this episode, I will say.
I saw the same ones. Like people saying like, why did we need this episode? And it's like, well, and
why did you need to be born, IMDb reviewer?
There is this this interesting phenomenon of a lot of I'm going to make a educated guess and say a lot of the people that make these kinds of statements lack melanin.
As do we, to be clear.
As do we, to be clear. Like, I'm speaking, to my own people, and I want to say there's this interesting phenomenon of white audiences when presented with a black story within a, I guess you could call 911 like a multicultural piece of media, that's like an explicitly black story. Part of their brain just shuts off a little bit, and
why did we need this?
Right, and that's a shame, is what it is. So yeah, I would just say, if you're lacking a curiosity for this story in particular, or if you're holding it to like an interesting double standard that you're not applying to the rest of the show when it comes to depiction or what have you, just sit with that and interrogate it a little bit, and you might make some new discoveries about yourself. No shame. We're all learning and we're all growing, but just do some internal investigation there, as Athena does in this episode. So we begin. So we begin in 1977. Guys, we are in the 70s, and the set design is so good. We're instantly brought in with the Commodores in the Grant home. Yeah,
we've got that easy. How does it go?
Sing it, Jane.
Yes, we get that easy like Sunday morning song, needle drop. We're already being immersed. I did really appreciate the production design in this episode, and I'll mention specifics as we go on. But yes, we see Athena Grant's childhood home. It's 1977. Star Wars has just come out, maybe. And Athena Grant is 9 years old, and she is doing the dishes with mom, and she's not doing a very good job.
Right off the bat, we have to comment on Beatrice's absolutely, totally cunty Farrah Fawcett blowout.
Well,
it's
the blowout is important.
It's extravagant.
It's beautiful.
I am obsessed. She looks so glam. I love that this was like the era where people would just walk around their homes doing the dishes with Farrah Fawcett blowouts.
And also, to be fair, we might just have the impression that people did the dishes with this kind of hairstyle because on TV and in movies, they will kind of overdo the styling to try and establish the time period. But for the sake of how cool this is, let's just say everybody was doing the dishes with their Farrah Fawcett blowout. And Athena is...
I want to believe.
Yeah. Athena needs some schooling on doing the dishes because she was about to put a wet cast iron back in the cupboard, and her mom is like, wait, that's my good cast iron. It's going to get rusty if you put it in there wet. And Athena kind of turns her back and then rolls her eyes, and her mom's like, and don't you roll those eyes at me. And she's kind of like, mom having eyes in the back of her head thing. And so she's like, sorry, mom. And she's like, when will dad be home?
How do you wash one of these? I actually don't know how you wash one of these, the cast iron skillet. No one's ever explained it to me.
So a lot of people, including my mom, sorry mom, still believe that you cannot use soap on a cast iron. But from what I have heard, that is based on outdated logic. That used to be true when soap still had lye in it. It could be caustic to the surface of your cast iron. Now with modern dish soap, from what I understand, that is no longer true. You probably shouldn't like scrub the hell out of your pan, but you can use soap. I think a lot of dish soap might mess with the seasoning, like you might have to re-season it, but seasoning a cast iron isn't very hard, so you can just clean it like you would a regular dish and maybe just season it often.
I have follow-up questions, but I'll save them because we're trying to get through the episode. So, Athena, like, makes a mention of like, why do you like doing the dishes so much? And she says, because it's my peace. It's usually my peaceful time by myself. And then it's like, where's Dad? And Dad shows up, and he missed dinner. He missed dinner because apparently he got a flat tire, and he is covered in grease. Ooh,
Yes.
that shirt, the stains on that shirt, that is going to be tough to get out.
Well, yes, here begins the red herringification of Samuel, Athena's father, because obviously at
Very
the
effective.
Yes.
Very effective red herringification.
At the end of the previous episode, we had heard this shocking news that Bobby and Junior found a body when they tried to dig up the cement foundation of the addition of the house. And, Samuel, who kind of had that addition made back in the day and is now in the hospital in a coma, becomes kind of our number one suspect. And here we get this hint of like, oh, he was out doing something that made him all dirty when he got home. And, that was kind of odd. The very night that this girl disappeared. So
very odd. Too late. Not only did he miss dinner, he actually got home too late to read Athena a bedtime story, but he's going to make it up to her tomorrow with 2 bedtime stories and Athena negotiates.
Waffles for breakfast.
Waffles. Ugh.
Yeah, his wife is like, you're not that good of a lawyer because you just got out negotiated by a 9-year-old.
Her priorities are so correct too. Like this would be me negotiating because I love waffles. She's just like me. And we get Athena lawyer seeds, Athena negotiator seeds, Athena wins every argument seeds. Which we know in the future to be true. Athena wins every argument because she just owns it. And she's smart. So she scuttles off to bed. And then in the night, she is awoken to the sound of worried voices and panic. There's panic in the living room. She goes downstairs. And there's a woman there, and her next door neighbor, whose outfit is also fabulous, extremely 70s.
Yes.
The afro, the matching the orange and the red. Like
she's got one of those
she's wearing bell
headbands
bottoms
with the like dangly, like this scarf tied around her head in a very 70s way. Clearly the kind of production design team, art direction, stylists for this episode were like, we are going to make sure that if someone tunes into this episode a few minutes in, they will know that it's 1977. And yes.
And I love that. They're having so much fun with this.
Yeah.
They're having so much fun. Like, the only thing that's missing is if her dad was wearing, like, a pair of, like, chunky heels, like, to do disco in.
The neighbor from next door is Tanya Kingston's mother. And she's saying when Joanne, Tanya's older sister, went to check on her, Tanya wasn't in her bed. She's missing. The mom is freaking out, and she's asking Athena's parents for help. So just like we heard Athena describe back in season whatever, she sees her dad, get his gun. And so Athena can tell that something is very seriously wrong. And when her parents see her, they're like, get back to bed now. Like, get in your room, go to bed.
This is what you do to a child. Just go to bed. I felt for Athena in this scene because I'm like, I wouldn't fall asleep either. But I also understood her parents like, well, there's a little girl missing, so we want to make sure ours is locked up safe.
Yes.
But poor her. So we see her, of course, she's in bed. She's very worried. She's holding her stuffy close. And her mom comes in. She's like, didn't your dad tell you to go to sleep? She's like, I can't fucking sleep. Tanya's missing.
I'm kind of scared of the child predator that it was just implied is on the loose right now. So her mom comes in, shuts the wide open window. This is why the 70s were crazy. No screen, window open in your child's room in the middle of the night.
Do you remember that movie Hook? Where he unhooks the window. It wasn't great, but people like to remember it fondly because they watched it when they were kids. It wasn't good. But there's like a scene where he like opens the. Anyways, it's a whole thing. But that's what it was calling to mind. So her mom attempts to comfort her, and she says, Athena, there is something you can do for Tanya. Just pray for her. Pray. Do you remember what I told you? And Athena's like, that God answers prayers, and we're gonna hope that He answers this one. He doesn't. He didn't answer the prayer.
Well, he answered it like 40 years later.
Oh, she's still dead. The prayer was for her to get home safe. Home safe.
Yeah. Well, Christians have a host of reasons, justifications for why God exists, even though terrible things happen. So I think God's Not Dead said it was because of free will, so I'll just say it's because of that. But yes, there's a search party happening outside for Tanya. Athena is peering out the window. She's obviously already very curious and very frightened by the situation. And in the present, Bob-Thena and Mom are outside of Dad's hospital room, and the police are there. They're getting samples. They're like taking his DNA, his prints, and obviously Beatrice is very upset by this. But Athena, steadfast cop that she is like, he's just doing his job. You know, they've got a warrant. They can do this one way or another.
And like this is what I mean when I say like this is like the police are present in this episode. This doesn't ring propaganda bells to me per se, like in the sense
it's
that...
more just like the reality of what would happen.
Right, it's like they have a warrant, like there isn't really anything that you can do in that scenario, and Athena is right to say, well, you're only going to make it worse by getting in the way of things.
In theory, it's good to verify whether Samuel did it or not.
Right,
for everyone.
because it's like, you know, there's a possibility... and that possibility is very concerning. They're looking into it.
They are looking into it. The doctor comes in and he's like, well, the good news is your dad seems to be improving. The swelling in his brain is going down, so hopefully we'll be able to take him out of the medically induced coma soon.
Oh, and then this detective strides on up to Athena Grant and
he says, my name is Detective Clifford Dixon, which is a great character name.
What a name. Detective Clifford Dixon? Are you kidding me?
That's strong. That's very strong.
And I like, this is like where like my like alarm bells went up, and more so in the sense that like men are awful and will hurt you. But like Clifford, Clifford, the big red dog. When I was a kid, my very first birthday cake was a Clifford cake because I loved Clifford the big red dog.
Oh, and now you love Buck the big red bisexual.
Yeah, but I don't love this cop. I just got vibes from him.
I guess I could see like introducing a new character at a time like this feels like it might be another setup of someone who's somehow in on it, but he's not. He's just supposed to be sort of, I mean, the only way he's supposed to be sinister is that he's kind of blocking Athena from getting involved in the investigation throughout the episode, even though that is kind of justified. Obviously, as a character, like we're kind of rooting for her to get involved and get to the bottom of this. So he represents that obstacle for her. He's like the local detective who is trying to handle this on his own. Yeah.
And Athena immediately, she jumps into cop mode. She's like, I'm not going to say anything without a lawyer present. And he, I want to say dismissively, but it's also not quite that. He's like, I'd recommend that you turn off your cop brain, just be his daughter, etc. And like, I get it, but it feels a little patronizing in the moment. And so, and like, I'm in Athena's shoes and I'm just like, oh.
I think that's how it's supposed to
I don't
come
like
off.
you.
Like, Athena isn't, like when he says, we haven't accused him of anything yet. Like, that was kind of unnecessary.
Right. It's like, did you have to say all that? We're all here. He's comatose in the next room. And so we cut away from that to Athena. She's on the phone with Michael in her car.
Yeah,
and,
she's on the phone with Michael, who is conveniently not seen and not heard. And she conveniently tells Michael not to send Harry. He doesn't need to be in the middle of this. You, Michael, David, and Harry, who definitely still exist and are definitely just out of frame, having a good time. You guys stay down there in Miami. It's fine. You don't need to. We don't need to pay your actors to show up.
Like a few hours away. It's like a few hours away. They could show up if they really wanted to. But,
wait, they're both in Florida, right?
They're in Florida. Like, why wouldn't they meet up anyways?
But yeah, it's much more reasonable than like coming to LA. Wow, yeah. I never even noticed that. Yeah, they totally could have just like gotten on like an hour and a half flight probably to.
Yeah,
but we can't just mend fences with Rockman Dunbar. We've burned that bridge.
We can't just send Harry on his own because we're about to replace his actor. And Athena, she pulls the Kamala. She's like, "Do not come. Do not come."
Not come. Exactly. Yeah. And she ends the call, and she and Bobby get to her house, and they see that Junior's here with his father. Good old Junior and his father. Nothing going on there. They come up and talk to them. They express their condolences to Bob-Thena.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Junior and his father. Senior.
Yes, Junior and Senior. The old guy's name is Reggie. The young guy's name is Junior. Probably not his birth name, but that is what he is called. Yes, they talk to Junior and Senior, and they're kind of trying to get some answers out of them because it was Reggie who like laid that concrete in the first place, and he explains that well, first of all, you know, they wanted to come by, see how everybody's doing. They get introduced to Bobby, and he says, yeah, I built the original structure, laid the foundation. And, you know, when I did that, it was so humid that I had to leave the concrete to set for longer, you know, a few days. And it was just out to the street. So anybody theoretically could have put that girl in there. So he's like, we don't know that it was your dad. But then he conveniently is like, well, he's kind of trying to make Athena feel better by being like, you know, the fact that your dad asked for this concrete to be poured right after Tanya Kingston's disappearance could just be a coincidence. Or, you know, like the town was so shaken up, maybe he just kind of changed his mind about building that addition, wanted to take some action, get busy doing something. And she's like, when exactly did he ask you to do the job? And he says kind of uncomfortably, he's like, it was the day after Tanya disappeared.
It's like, that's a suspicious amount of information to just casually drop, you know, while you're trying to comfort her, while her comatose dad is being investigated for the murder of this child from the 70s. Strange
but
and interesting.
Obviously, this does not look good for Athena's dad. We're still, the red herringification continues.
And you see this very affects Athena, you know, Reggie and Junior, they pack into their garish, run-down green truck.
Here's what I have to say about it.
Puts down the road.
Yes, they have this vintage truck that has something wrong with the motor. It makes kind of a popping noise when it drives away. And I have to say, it's great that they have this like cool old truck prop, but you can kind of tell it's a special Hollywood like old car rental, you know, like specifically for Hollywood productions, because despite being so old, it has this like beautiful, perfect new paint job. There's not a scratch on it. It's complete. It's spotless. It's
spotless.
So clean. That was one thing where I was like, I would have thrown a little bit of mud on there to make it look a little more lived in.
Right. You live in rural Florida. You're off-roading. Presumably, at least every now and again, you're gonna get like mud, at least on your undercarriage, certainly. And like, obviously, I'm not down there inspecting it, like to make sure everything's actually pristine and spotless 100%. But it just looks so fresh. It looks like it's in an automotive museum, like
maybe
straight out of it.
After Tanya's body was discovered, they were like, wow, I'm so shaken up about this. Better go to the car wash.
Once every 6 weeks for the next 40 years?
Maybe they really care about that truck, you know?
You'll spend, well, not enough to repair the motor, apparently.
True.
Like when you hear like the popping sound, it's like, I wouldn't expect that from such a clean vintage car. You look like you take really good care of it.
Yeah. I just thought that was funny.
funny little things. And so Athena, she goes back into her house, and
Bobby,
she's
ever the
just
supportive husband, is like, are you sure you're okay? I know I've been asking you a lot, but I'm just so worried about you. And she's like, I'm not sure how I'm feeling.
And then we get this establishing shot to show that some time has passed. It's nighttime. You see the orange grove.
Yes. Oh my God.
Nice,
we cut to the most atmospheric aerial shot of the dark fog-covered orange groves, which will be a big motif in this episode.
Oh, yes. And it looks so good. And then Athena awakens in the night to find that the bed is empty, save for her. And you get this very moody, like atmospheric shot of her in bed, like lighting. Getting up. And then we go to her dad's office. Bobby is snooping through all of the pockets and drawers in there.
Yeah, Bobby
and
is reading all her dad's old files.
Just splayed out on the desk. And Athena's like, so what's going on here? What's all this now? And he's like, did you know that your dad keeps a meticulous record of all of his files? And she's like, well, they're not for public consumption or whatever.
Yes. She's like, put that away. What are you doing? You have no right. And he's like, this is such a great Bobby moment. He's like, you're right. it shouldn't be me. It should be you doing this. Like, why aren't you digging into this?
Ooh, he knows her so well.
He does. And she, you know, he's like, why are you just standing on the sidelines? And she's like, it's like that detective said, I'm not a police officer here. And Bobby keeps pressing. He's like, well, don't you want to clear your father's name? You know, they're going to take Samuel off sedation soon, and the police are going to be there waiting for him. You don't want that to happen. And she says, when he asks, what are you so afraid of? She's like, I'm afraid that he could have done it. And that's so good. It's so real. It's like, yeah, like she's like, I love my father, but also like he is just a man. He's just a man. He could have had a whole life that I didn't know about. It kind of reminds me, it's a really compelling idea. It reminds me of, I watched this episode of SVU once, like years ago. I think it starred Samira Wiley from Orange is the New Black. And it was like she was the daughter of this guy who had long been in prison for what she thinks is a crime he didn't commit, which is molesting her. And she fights the whole episode to get him out of prison. And then for some reason, something happens where by the end of the episode, she's like, I actually don't know what I remember. Like, I actually don't know if he did it or not after getting him out of prison. And it's a really interesting idea, right? And kind of a spooky one.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
I
What
feel like
season was it? Was that season 13?
I have no idea what season it was. I was like 13 watching SVU.
Then it was probably season 14. Interesting.
But it reminds
Was Raul
me-
Esparza there? Was Raul Esparza
I don't
there as a
know.
lawyer?
It was fucking years ago, Ryan. But the point is,
Okay.
It's a compelling idea, this idea of like, you can think you know someone. And Athena says, like, you know, do you know how many people I've, you know, people as a cop that I've met, families of perpetrators who just couldn't believe it, that they were living under, thought that their loved one would never do something like this, that they were always the sweetest person, whatever. It's like there are some cases where we just we can't really be sure. And that's a scary idea to her, naturally.
Yeah, it's terrifying, honestly. Like, you don't know you don't know what's going on in someone else's head. Like, imagine, you get this a lot with, like, the parents of school shooters, and they're like, I don't really know how this my child could commit this. And then if they're anything like Sue Klebold, they go on a whole, a talk show circuit about it, and they make a career of it, which, I'm not going to say anything about that. But you really don't know. Yeah, it's chilling to think about, honestly. And so we go to commercial through the mirror of my mind, and then when we come back, we're back in the 70s. We're back in that 70s show.
And it's time for the one real propaganda scene of the episode.
Yeah.
Just back in the 70s. And this is one that I remember having in my notes.
I was being so nice to this episode earlier.
This is one that I remember having in my notes when I was working on my YouTube video. Like, this is one that has always stuck out to me as a propaganda scene. So Athena is back in the past. She's a little kid again, and she sees this white cop kind of manhandling Tanya Kingston's older sister out of his cop car and taking her home, basically. She was doing something, well, we don't really know if she was doing anything delinquent, but he seems to think she was. It's interesting how the rest of the scene frames him as, like, the nicest white guy cop, when, like, he is very much, like, he's grabbing her arm and forcing her over to her house. Like, he's definitely manhandling her. She's arguing with him, obviously, and he brings her over to her mom. She and the mom start arguing. She's like, oh, don't pretend to care now about the one kid you have left. The mom's like, why are you always making things so difficult? It's kind of a classic dynamic kids can fall into when, like, a sibling dies or something happens to them like this, where now they are kind of starved of attention and the love of their parents. And as we'll see later, like, she's feeling some guilt that's probably making her act out. And so she's, like, really being nasty to her mom, too. She says
something crazy to her mom. She says, like, and now I know why dad died, because it was to escape you. Like, bro, imagine saying that. Imagine saying that to someone. It's very
Eddie telling Bobby, like, you've got 147 bodies on your whatever he said. She's a troubled teen. She's acting out. She's going through something. The cop eventually leaves them alone. The mom and daughter go in. Oh my God, Barney Fife mentioned, because when the cop is like, why don't we all just try to calm down? The daughter is like, shut up, Barney Fife. Which that would have been what girls were referencing in the 70s, probably, in regards to cops. So shout out to the writing detail. And she and the mom eventually go inside. The white cop is left out there. And Athena, her friends kind of run away. And Athena decides to approach this cop. And she's like, hey, mister, why does everybody say you're bad at your job? And he's like, whoa, okay. He's like, you shouldn't believe everything you hear. Was Tanya your friend? And she's like, I don't know, she lived next door to me, etc. I saw her at school, at church. Are you still looking for her? He says, of course we are. It's just, this is a hard case. And we don't have a lot of clues. And she's like, oh yeah, you need clues, like that barrette you found. And he's like, how do you know about that? She says she overheard her dad talking about it. And she asks, is that the only clue you have? He says, the only other thing we know is that somebody climbed in that bedroom window and took her. That's what we think happened. It's kind of crazy that he decides to be that forthcoming about it. But, she's like, what about Joanne? Did you ask her anything? And he's like, you sure have a lot of questions.
You ask a lot of questions. She's like, I like to know stuff. And it's like,
which
girl,
so
me
true.
too. I get you.
Same. Yeah, right? Like, we do like to ask questions when we want to know stuff. And she's like, so why did you arrest Joanne just now? And he's like, I didn't arrest her. I just wanted to make sure she got home safe because, she's having a hard time right now. I wish I could help her and her mom. And Athena's like, yeah, me too. He tells her to stay safe. I just think that I'm not saying it's impossible that there would be a kind white cop in this majority black seeming community at this time in 1977 with regards to a case of a missing black child. I do think in a story, it's a very deliberate choice, right, to depict this guy as the nicest, most understanding, like just coming from a good place kind of cop. I question whether that's realistic, and I also think it's sort of doing a disservice to the fact that we know, like, it's a known fact that a lot of famous cases of like serial murder and rape, especially things perpetrated against women throughout history, have been taken a long time to be solved, often almost exclusively because of like local cop incompetence within these police departments and sheriff departments. And we know that that is exacerbated when the victims are like the quote unquote less dead, people who are black, people who are indigenous, people who are women, people who are like in professions that are considered less important, like people who are sex workers. And you just have to wonder, like, in real life, I think a case of a missing black girl at this time period probably would have faced a lot of, like, the reason that never got solved realistically probably would have had more to do with police incompetence and like a lack of care for that issue. And I think it says something that they made such a deliberate choice to have not only a cop, but a notably white cop be just like the most well-intentioned guy on earth and perhaps a part of Athena's inspiration as a child to become a cop. It just feels a little silly and a little, just sort of, what's the word? Like, fabulistic.
It does. It cheapens the narrative a little bit. And that's unfortunate because I'm not sure if, and I'm curious, I would love to know this, if Lindsay Bolio, if you're listening, if this character was necessarily written to be a white police officer specifically, or if he was intended to just be written aracially, and that was the part of like the producers or the casting director or whatever just like cast this white guy as it, and there wasn't a lot of thought put into it, which is possible. But
I was thinking
it
that
does,
while watching, like, I could
narrative.
kind of see. I do think it makes a difference. Like, if they had chosen to make it a black cop, that could kind of track a little more, at least as to why that would like inspire Athena. Career-wise, and maybe why someone like that would like feel more indebted to the community or something, because I don't know, the fact that it's a white cop kind of makes it feel like this outsider, more of an outsider to the situation, in a way that again feels like maybe the realistic situation would not be for him to be so well-intentioned. Again, I'm not trying to say that I like want
with that.
Cops to be racist. It's just that that's the reality in a lot of cases, especially for the time period.
Yeah, and like you can do something with that. You have a great opportunity to make that a part of your story if that's, the route that you choose to go down. But like this is especially coming at a very interesting point, debuting, and I think this episode came out in 2023, maybe 2022, where there was a lot of videos that had gone mega viral of, say, for instance, black girls getting arrested in class because their teacher called the police on them because they were being, I guess, disobedience, the word. like very violently arrested in that case. And like that image is so ingrained now that, you know, when you open this scene with this white cop manhandling Joanne, it's hard not to take it as feeling pointed, right?
And it's interesting because you'd think even with the show supporting, like, for example, Athena as a cop, you'd think you could still use this opportunity to be like, maybe she encounters a bad cop on this case who's not, you know, who's being ignorant and clearly doesn't have much of an investment in the case, and maybe that is part of her drive to one day solve this case. That would actually kind of make more sense, in my opinion, than her just seeing a nice cop who's like trying his best. Like, you'd think part of that sort of spite could be, because when she introduces this in season 2, it's like she seems to have this, I don't know, it seems like part of it remaining unsolved for so long, it kind of feels like that's implied that that's a part of it, and it inspiring her to become a cop. So yeah, I think this scene, as much as I don't think the whole episode is like a propaganda episode per se, I think this moment is one of the weaker moments of the show in its depiction of cops.
It ends up being like kind of like a Princess and the Frog moment, like oh, and in Louisiana, here's this nice white millionaire who's giving all this money to the paper boy in our opening song. So, you know, he's a nice guy. He's one of the nice white people in Louisiana, in New Orleans. It's strange. It's a very strange thing to include. But that is like, yeah, like you said, that's like the one thing. So
Athena goes over to Tanya's house. And now that she's heard about the idea of somebody sneaking through the window, she's kind of examining the flower beds, and you can see that they're loose on one side. And then her dad shows up and is like, "What are you doing sniffing around someone else's property?" And she's like, "I just wanted to see it for myself." And she says, he says to her, "Sometimes it's best not to let our curiosity get the best of us. Don't go looking for stuff." So that's another thing that seems like kind of a suspicious thing for him to say.
Yeah, but it is also in the spirit of like what Bobby like said that one time, like, don't go borrowing trouble, like, etc.
Yeah.
Like
No,
it is one of those things that could be taken either way, right? Like it could be just be fatherly protective advice or something, or it could be a, you know, sort of tacit admission of guilt.
Yeah, because he says, don't go looking for stuff you might not like what you find, which, yeah, if he was guilty, is very like, ooh, that's a little suspicious of him
so it's
to
actually
say.
a smart way to write it. Yeah, it's a smart way to write it. And
that it could go either way.
And Back to the Future, Athena, she's putting the pieces together in hindsight with Bobby. She's saying, you know, my father came home and he had a dirty shirt and he was out late, which was so unusual. I didn't know what to make of it, etc. It's just like walking through the events that led up to Tanya's disappearance. And she says the line that gives this episode its name. She says, "The devil wears a familiar face and tricks you with his lies," which, interestingly, is the exact same sentiment being expressed now by alt-right Christian evangelicals to decry everything from Sesame Street to Miss Rachel, the war on empathy. Very interesting the way that this has been politically commodified within the last few years. But this is a common Christian sentiment.
But Athena Grant is using it correctly.
Yes, Athena's using it in the traditional sense. She's not using
She's saying anyone at any time is capable of doing a horrible thing. I thought it was very a good kind of poetic line to add to our sort of poetic atmosphere.
Yes, very much so. And yeah, what an interesting thing to grapple with, you know, like the truth will always reveal itself. And so do you want to participate in that if the truth ends up being something that you don't enjoy, I guess. And obviously the answer that she comes to, because it's a narrative, is yes, she's going to start doing her own sleuthing with Bobby. It's going to be the Athena sleuthing arc. And so where does she go? She goes right back to that house, Tanya Kingston's house. And it looks exactly the same, like the crooked flower box and all, right? Outside of the window. And then
Joanne shows up. She still lives in this house, the older sister. She's obviously grown up, and she's like who goes there? Like, you're trespassing. And they're like, calm down. It's me. It's Athena Carter. And what does she do? What does Joanne do? She pulls out a gun.
She's got a gun. Joanne's got a gun.
Yes, she's got a gun. This is kind of a funny moment. Like, it just is so dramatic. Like, all of a sudden, she pulls a gun on them. They're both like, whoa. Like, you don't have to do this. And the reason she's done this is she has heard about the Samuel thing, and she believes that Athena's dad did it. And she's like, you're the daughter of the man who murdered my sister. And Athena's like, you, like, can you not? And Bobby, heroic firefighter that he is.
That's the quote. Can you not?
I feel like this isn't the best idea, but he just goes right into trying to wrestle the gun from her. And he succeeds because, you know, he's Bobby. He's a big, strong fireman. And he's like, Joanne, I just want to talk. So he confiscates the gun. And finally, Joanne is kind of won over because Athena's like, I'm here because I want answers, just like you. You know, she kills him with kindness. She's like, I want to know what happened to Tanya. And
this scene is, can I just say, there's something about, I don't know this actress. I don't know Joanne's actress, and I think she's a lot better in the rest of the episode. But there is something uniquely soapy about every single word that comes out of her mouth. I
thought she was fine. I think it's more the sort of abruptness of pulling out the gun just sort of makes it feel a little silly.
I don't know. It feels overacted to me, but maybe that's just me. But it's certainly abrupt. And after Athena kills her with kindness, Joanne leads them into her and Tanya's old bedroom that has not changed in the... How many? 46, 45 years since Tanya disappeared?
Joanne explains that their mother kept it like a shrine. She kept everything in its place because she was always kind of keeping the room ready in case Tanya came back. At the time, I didn't like sharing a room with my sister. You know, she was nosy. She was always up in my things. And, you know, the tragic irony of like, now I would never feel annoyed. Now I want her back. And Athena looks at the flower bed, how it's loose, and she kind of comes to the conclusion, this actually looks like it was climbed through multiple times, or Bobby notices that. And they kind of look pointedly at Joanne, and they're like, did you used to sneak through this window, Joanne? Did you sneak out that night? And she's like, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I did.
Me and Tanya snuck out that night.
They justify this by saying later on that Joanne lied to the police and her parents about this whole thing because she was a child and she was scared and whatnot. But like when you hear this, your immediate impulse is to think, so did nobody interview the sister that
I just assumed she
was
lied.
Sharing a room? Right.
I assume she lied.
I guess I'm too trusting.
It does make you wonder, are Athena and Bobby the only people to ever notice that it looks like this was like a habitual climbing in and out of the window? Like that's kind of lucky.
Well, the fuck-ass white cops didn't do a good job investigating. So
that would be one way to frame it, but they didn't frame it that way. We then go to another flashback, this time in Joanne and Tanya's room. It's the night of the disappearance, and this was the part where I was really appreciating the production design, because all these cute period bedrooms, like especially these sort of little girl worlds they've crafted, are so nice, because it's not anything like I feel like a lot of 70s and 80s media will try and make it seem like the 70s and 80s were all like the most aesthetically pleasing, like nostalgia things that have caught on, like the aesthetics that have caught on in a nostalgic way, when really a lot of that time was like these sort of garish, like mismatched, ugly, like floral prints and stuff. And I feel like that's more like
synthetic fibers.
Yeah, we've got like these sort of like crazy print like quilts and all these different colors in the rooms, and you know, the cute little bed frames, very 70s, and like all these.
It feels more truthful.
Yes, and it's just good set dressing. Like they've put a lot of detail into everything. There's stuff strewn all around. And Joanne is making up her bed and like putting a fake body, putting like pillows and stuff underneath her blankets so that she can sneak out. And naturally, the annoying little sister, Tanya, is like, does mom know? Like, can I come? And Joanne is like, the only way mom would know is if you told her, and we both know you're not going to do that. So go to sleep. I'm going to sneak out and go to my cool teenager party. And she does, but Tanya's not happy about this. She's like, why does my big sister get to do all the cool stuff? She decides that, like, well, I've observed my sister doing this. I want to do it too. She does the same thing, puts pillows under her blankets to make it look like she's under them. She puts in her barrettes. And, you know, like, gets ready to go out to, it's cute. She's like putting in her barrettes because she wants to look cool for the party. She sneaks out of the window as well.
She doesn't change her clothes, though, which is interesting. She's still wearing her, like, her nightgown.
No, those are not pajamas, you unobservant man. She clearly, what you're supposed to get from it is she takes off the blankets and she's fully dressed. She's wearing, like, a cute little romper and her t-shirt.
Wearing that? Wearing that?
Do you know what 70s little girl clothes look like? It's clearly a full outfit.
Saying,
that is clearly not street clothes, Ryan.
She has no style, is what I'm saying. Okay, she
incorrect. It's an adorable
in.
little romper with her cute little t-shirt, and also, like, a nightgown would look completely different, is what I'm saying.
Well, you know what? You got me. I didn't wear them, so that's my bad. I guess I'm not woke enough.
Yeah,
I'm just
maybe
saying,
think before you speak.
I'm just saying maybe she could have, like, you know, read like a fashion magazine or something before she went to her first big kid party or something.
This
I
is
don't know.
Horribly tone-deaf thing to say about a kidnapped and murdered little girl.
who actually existed. Yes.
Who actually was a real person. No, I think you're just coping because you thought she was in pajamas and she's obviously not.
Well, I did think she was in pajamas and obviously she's not. But also, that doesn't excuse the fact that this dress is ugly. Sorry.
It's a romper and it's cute. And also she's a little girl. It doesn't have to be fashionable. But she sneaks out the window and she makes her way to this cool kid party. They're like out in I don't even know where they're supposed to be. It's not a house. It's like some kind of, you know, either a warehouse or barn or something.
Yeah, like it has like a grain silo and it seems like it's not in use anymore. Like the farmer like abandoned the property or something. Maybe got foreclosed on. And so they have a bonfire going. Rubber Band Man is playing. It's like, it's a good vibe. They're drinking beer.
Everybody's drinking beer. And Tanya shows up and her sister sees her. She's like, oh my God, what's my sister doing here? She's with her two friends. One of them is Junior. And she's like, her friends are like, is that your sister? She's like, yes. Ugh, I'm going to kill her for showing up without asking. She goes over to her sister. She's like, what are you doing here? And Tanya just wanted to see what her friends do when they hang out. And she kind of leverages her power. She's like, well, you're not going to tell on me because I could go tell mom that you're here. Like, I have the power in this situation. So she's like,
these kids are smart. Okay, first there's Athena, the master negotiator with her father for waffles.
Yeah, we have two master negotiator children in this. And
now here's Tanya Kingston.
Yes, and not only does she want to stay, she wants a beer. She's like,
she wants a beer. She wants to drink so bad. And so Joanne is obviously so resistant. She's like, get out of here. You're embarrassing me with your fuck ass romper. And then Tanya's like, no, I have the power. And she's like, okay, fine. You can stay for 30 minutes. And she's like, an hour. She's like, 30 minutes. Come on. I'll even take you to a movie on Saturday. And she thinks it over. And she says, fine. But I get to pick the movie. That's how you negotiate, kids. Take notes from Tanya Kingston. Unfortunately, she wouldn't live to see the movie, but it's yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was kind of thinking, like, what movie would they have seen? Maybe it would have been Star Wars.
Hello.
Who knows? Yes, so she agrees to take her to the movies on Saturday. They even give her the beer. She tries drinking it and obviously makes a face like children would not like beer. Many people, children or otherwise, when they first taste beer are like, that's what beer tastes like. So, you know, the kids kind of laugh at her. And then you can see her kind of like be offended by that. So she kind of resolves to like, no, I'm going to drink the beer and I'm going to like it. We see some like footage of the party. Everybody's dancing. All these kids in the 70s. They're so cool. They're having such a great time. And suddenly Tanya's sister and her friend are by themselves. And her friend's like, where did your sister go? And Joanne looks around and she realizes she doesn't see her. And she's like, I guess she must have gone home, like, because it's been 30 minutes. Wow, I can't believe she actually listened to me. But
do you think they were having like a YA teen, like sapphic, like romance moment, like looking at the stars together,
We
like
can only
holding
hope.
hands?
But then it was
We can
probably
only hope. It's coming
destroyed
of
by the
age.
trauma of Tanya going missing. Like, you would never be
Right.
able to look
And
at
she
that
wa-
friend again.
And she was never gay again because Pride Month is over.
Yes, exactly. That too. Now, a little later at the party, the girls hear a car coming, and they all kind of assume that they're about to get busted. So everybody runs and hides. And all you can hear is the car. You can hear the engine. It makes this putt-putt noise. What could that mean? They're like, it's getting late. We should go. So they do. Joanne gets back to her room. She sees, like, the lump under Tanya's covers. And she's like, well, I guess you did end up going home. Like, I know you're not really asleep. Have you thought about what movie you want to see? And Tanya's not saying anything, so she grabs the blanket. She's like, you're giving me the silent treatment. But she grabs the blanket, and of course, it's just the pillows and stuffed animals. Tanya's not actually there.
And so she checks her bed. She checks her bed, and she's like, okay, you're pranking me. And she lifts the duvet off of there, and it's also the pillows that she had left. Tanya's not in the room. Oh no. Where's Tanya? Where's Tanya? Where's Tanya? Right? I do like this moment before the reveal that she's not there, where it's just Joanne speaking to her as if she was there, and you can get a sense that there is like that still, like, even if they get on each other's nerves, there is that sort of familial sibling,
Yeah,
like
she's kind of forgiven
like,
her for
intimacy.
sneaking out,
Yeah.
friends again. And yeah, then in the present, Joanne says, yeah, I never actually did see her leave. I just assumed she had. And in the morning, I went to my parents and I told them she was gone. I lied that she just hadn't been there when I woke up.
And so it gets juicy, and then we hear in the distance sirens. And Bobby's like, did you call the cops? And Joanne's like, well, you were trespassing, so...
Yeah, I guess earlier she called the cops and she didn't think to, like, call back, like, hey, it's actually cool. So... Detective,
So Clifford
what's his name?
arrives.
Clifford Dixon
Clifford
shows
Dixon.
back up. How could we forget? Detective Clifford
could we
Dixon shows
forget?
back up. And even though Joanne, this is a moment of, I think, realistic, just like annoying cop behavior. Joanne's like, oh, actually, everything's fine. I'm not going to press charges. And Clifford Dixon is like, it's not up to you. I'm arresting Athena Grant anyway. And
A-cab.
Athena, let's just
A-cab.
say, A-cab, and let's just say, Athena Grant is not happy to get a taste of her own medicine, because Athena would easily do this same thing. She has on the show before. We've had
She has.
situations like with that kid that she promised she would make a deal with, and then she just like didn't, right? Like,
Yeah, just completely reneged on it. Like, oh,
yeah, she
no
totally
takesies,
would do this
backsies.
thing of like, well, even though it would totally make sense to just leave the situation and let you off the hook, I'm just going to take you in anyway for the principle of it. So she kind of exasperatedly goes along with it, but she does go along with it because presumably she's like, well, we must just let the wheels of justice do their thing.
Lay prostrate before the system and hope it doesn't fuck you. Right, exactly.
And Bobby kind of
there
just
is-
watches because he clearly knows that both Athena can take care of herself and that, yes, she really respects these proceedings.
And there is another element to this that we'll get into in a second. But for the time being, after Athena gets, carted off in the paddy wagon, he's back in Joanne's home. Joanne apologetically made him a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And he's on the phone with someone.
I think it's either
someone.
Athena or her mom or someone at the station.
We never find out who it is, and it's not important. But he's on the phone. Joanne makes him coffee, and he's asking, is there any other information you can give about that night that might make this whole process run a little smoother? And Joanne says, well, there was a car that approached. Headlights did approach, and we had to duck and not be seen because we were doing hooliganism. And it made a put 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 sound, that car backing up sound that you never hear except when there's a murderer on the loose. And so that's interesting. And so Bobby's like, great, that's all I needed to know. And so he dips to go, I guess, pay Athena's bail or whatever. And we get a lingering shot of the gun, the pistol on the counter.
Well, yes, because
Right.
Bobby is like, by the way, you should put that thing away. Like, you should keep yourself safe, lock that up. And at the station, despite being arrested, the detective mostly just seems like he's kind of having a meeting with her, and he seems pretty open to sharing all the information about the case with her. So it's
Yeah.
fine.
It seems like arresting her was almost like a formality on his part to like get her involved in the investigation and see what she
Yeah.
knows without like, I guess, blowing his own cover of like
Yeah, which is kinda
actually
funny.
thinking that she's valuable.
Right, and
yeah, that is funny.
She mentions that, you know, I just found out that Joanne lied and the police have been acting with the wrong information all this time. And he's like, well, not me. I actually deduced that on my own from the way. And this is an interesting detail. He says, you know, the fact that what they found was a barrette. I have daughters and they never go to sleep with their barrettes on because it hurts their head. And so I figured that Tanya would have had to be out of the house when this happened. And this is interesting because Kyla left us another comment about how, like, this is why she suspected that it was, like, the Black Riders who had kind of set this up to come back later, is that she had questioned when first watching that episode where Athena mentions that all they found was a barrette. She was like, well, I know that no girl would go to sleep with barrettes in. And then you get to this episode and that's actually part of it. And there's an explanation that, like, oh, there actually was a lot of, like, foresight here. And it wasn't just somebody kind of, like, randomly writing about something they didn't know about. So yes, good detail. Great way to kind of keep that from being like a logical inconsistency. Just
Yeah,
good,
the specificity
detailed stuff.
You know, like that. I mean, that's why you want people like. Well, it's one of the reasons that you want people of like their own demographics, sort of like, to write these kinds of stories, because there are those intimate little like nuggets of knowledge that you'd only really get if someone with experience were at the helm, essentially.
And Barney
so,
Fife back in
it.
1977 probably didn't think of that, which is,
Right.
you know, another reason you could have it be like the white sheriff's department at the time or whatever didn't do a good job on the investigation, but they chose not to do that. So that's very weird.
Yeah. But then we apparently they found some other little nuggets of evidence that there was this clasp from a harvesting bag that's used for
orange
picking
groves.
oranges back in the 70s in the orange groves. And so they're thinking maybe that was a transportation method for the body of this 8-year-old girl who was found in the concrete foundation.
There was no DNA. There was no DNA. And Athena has a thought. She notices that hydrated lime was one of the chemicals found at the scene. Apparently that is a chemical that is mixed in with concrete usually. But Athena, master landscaper that Athena must be, she's like, that's usually mixed in with the concrete. And here, the levels on those remains were so high that I don't think that would have just come from being in the concrete. I think she must have been doused in the quicklime, which quicklime is like a corrosive substance. So she deduces that she must have been doused in it intentionally to remove any DNA, any kind of surface evidence, and then the concrete poured over her. And she remembers what Reggie Sr. had said about anyone could have, quote unquote, put that girl in there. And she's like, well, that's a specific way of putting it, when it turns out, in fact, she was not put in there when the concrete was already poured. It would have had to be poured on top of her. So she thinks, I feel like that could have just been, like, in real life, that could have just been Reggie Sr. Well, no, never mind. I was going to say that could have just been him not knowing what happened, but no, he poured the concrete. So if the concrete was poured on her, he had to know about it. So that's what she's deduced. She's like, he lied. He's implicated here. We got to get this guy. And it's like,
goddamn, we have a hot lead. And so we get this very sinister cut to Samuel's hospital. Beatrice is at his bedside, and who should come knocking on the door for a visit with a little care package or whatever? It's Reggie. Oh, evil Reggie is here, and he starts talking to Beatrice in this very coded way. He's doing the friendly neighbor thing. He's like, I'm sorry about everything that's happened. I wish I could, take this pain away from you or whatever. And he just keeps repeating this apologetic
Yes.
sentiment. You know, I'm sorry, and it's like, well, if that's not an admission of guilt, then I don't know what is. But Beatrice doesn't pick up on it, of course, because she's none the wiser. She's not investigating.
Yeah, he
Although,
even says specifically, it shouldn't be happening to you and Samuel. You don't deserve this. Like, it's almost like you know that someone else did it.
he has this way of like twisting words to be very coded, to where like he's not really,
Yeah.
he's not even really lying. You know, at a certain point, he's just like telling the truth in a way that people don't pick up on. It's very
He's sort
shifty.
of like if a man was like a writer's voice. Yes. Reggie has a way with words.
And then we cut to Bobby. He's driving home to Athena's parents' place in the middle of the night, and he thinks back to the thing that Joanne said.
He passes the green truck, the spotless green truck, and yes, flashes back to
that thing Joanne said about the put 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 sound, and then he thinks about when Reggie and Junior were driving off, and the truck made a suspicious put 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 sound. Oh, the pieces, they're fitting together.
The dots. He's
the jigsaw
them.
puzzle, the picture is becoming clear. Oh, Roberto, I just know that the minute he got out of his car, this is when Martha was watching at home, and she was like, oh my God, Bobby's gonna die here. This is how Bobby's gonna die.
She hasn't watched this episode yet. Actually, like today as we're recording this, I was texting her like, you should watch that episode tonight. So she probably will by the time this episode's out. But yes, that's a good prediction. Maybe she will think that. Bobby decides to call Athena because he's like, Athena, I've connected the dots and we need to warn Joanne. Like I think it's Reggie. I think it's his truck or Junior's truck or whatever. And Athena's like, okay, well, here's what I just found out. The cement was poured over Tanya. So Reggie lied. And I think he's part of it. And Bobby's like, I'm at the Orange Grove right now, but I saw Reggie's truck and he's not in it. I gotta go warn Joanne. So he rushes off. Joanne, this is kind of lifetimey in a good way, not in a bad way. But Joanne is in her house. She's like being sad, like caressing pictures of her and Tanya and the bed sheets and stuff. We are kind of cutting in between that and Athena and Clifford Dixon in the car. And Athena's like, how did Reggie find Tanya that night? Somebody would have noticed if Reggie Sr., an adult, was at the bonfire. It doesn't make any sense. And you know, the detective is like, but Joanne heard Reggie's truck. And then she remembers when she first was saying hi to Junior in the last episode, like seeing him again, she was like, this boy chased me all through the orange groves. And that, the foreshadowing, thinking back to that, she gets this little inkling and she's like, you know, Reggie Sr. wasn't the only one in that house with a driver's license. So back at Joanne's house, she goes into the kitchen. The gun is missing from the kitchen counter.
Oh no.
And she turns around.
And who should be in here?
Junior's here. And he raises the gun. She's like, what are you doing here, Junior? He raises the gun and he says, taking care of loose ends. Cut to commercial. It's
the
great.
mirror of my mind.
Yeah. When we're back from commercial, Reggie is leading Joanne through the groves at gunpoint.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, here's my dastardly plan. I'm going to help the police solve this case. It was the sister that did it. She's like, what? What do you mean? He says, you let Tanya go to that party and then you let her drink. You let her drink a lot. It was just an accident when you found her passed out and not breathing. And you lied to the police.
She got him monologuing.
Yes.
She got a supervillain monologuing.
Yes. But, you know, you got to do it sometimes. And he's like, your guilt was so terrible and ate you alive for so long that you decided to take your own life in the same place you took Tanya's. So he's going to shoot her and he's going to frame it to look like she killed herself and maybe like write a note, forged note from her saying, oh, it was all me. I did it. So perfect plan, the perfect crime. We get another one of these like overhead shots of, I noticed in this episode, there's an interesting like narrative device where whenever we flash back to the past, we get one of those sweeping atmospheric shots overhead of the orange groves. And that's our little device to know that we are going back to the past. So we do
Smoothing
that.
the transition, it feels a lot less abrupt and everything. It's very nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, we see
We do that, and we're back at
from
the party.
Reggie's
We're
POV,
back at the cool teen
Junior's
party,
POV.
and now we are doing things from Junior's point of view. And he sees Tanya kind of storming out of the party, and he decides to kind of take an opportunity, and he goes over to her, and he's like, hey, like, you're leaving already? And she's like, yeah, my time's up. I gotta go home, even though it's unfair. And he says, let me give you a ride. Like, you shouldn't be walking by yourself at night. And she's a child, so she is trusting. And she's like, thank you. That's so nice of you. Now, later...
We even see him grab a beer before this.
Yeah,
like,
kind of sinister. He has seemingly driven them out into the middle of the orange groves to hang out for a minute. They're in the back of the truck. And he's like, yeah, that's so unfair that she sent you home like that. And he's like, it's okay. We can have our own little party. And they're both drinking a beer. She says, yeah, I'm sick of her treating me like a baby. And he has this really creepy line where he says, yeah, that's right. You're not a baby. Like, look how you're filling out already, right? He's he's starting to be more explicit about his intentions. And that, she's a little girl, but she still can understand that that's not right. She clearly starts to get uncomfortable. And she's like, I don't feel so good. I think you should take me home now. And he's like, it's okay. You're just not used to the alcohol. And that's when he puts his arm around her. She's clearly uncomfortable. And he's like, relax, I'm just trying to, she starts to really explicitly be like, please stop. I don't like that. He's like, I'm just trying to help you or whatever. And she knows what's going on. So she runs away. She's like, leave me alone. She runs away. And then he starts chasing her. And oh my God, this music, they start playing the Nina Simone cover, I think.
Lilac Wine.
Lilac Wine. This is like I'm sure anyone who has watched and enjoyed this episode will understand. This is like one of the most, I don't know, emotionally effective sequences in the entire show. Yeah. I have to say.
It's harrowing. It's like artistically like so well done. It's just I have
in my notes immersive. Like, not gonna lie, I got chills and also cried because I did. It's so, again, this moody, like, poetic Southern Gothic, not only story, but the setting they've created in these, like, misty orange groves at night.
Yes.
The song is so evocative, and it's, like, really beautiful, but also has this really kind of sadness to it. And now we're cutting back and forth between Junior chasing Tanya in the past, and then in the present, Junior about to shoot Joanne. And luckily for Joanne, Bobby bursts out of the shadows and tackles Junior. They start to get into this physical struggle. Joanne is like reaching for the gun. Yes, Athena and Clifford Dixon roll up, and they are getting out of the car. And as Joanne is like reaching for the gun, we hear a gunshot. And naturally, Athena's like, Bobby, something's happened to Bobby. She runs and finds them. Luckily, it seems like Joanne missed both guys with the gun, but it did kind of break them up.
She's a terrible fucking shot.
Well,
she's a stormtrooper.
I'd rather she miss both of them than accidentally shoot Bobby. But it sort of distracted things enough for Junior to get up and run away. Athena comes into to the clearing where they are, and she's like, are you okay, Bobby? And he's like, yeah, just go, get him. So she starts running after Junior, and we get like this slow motion. Athena's chasing after Junior in the present, and in the past, Junior's chasing after Tanya, and it's like such a literal Athena's retribution for this moment. And it's so scary and sad for the little girl, like, exactly. I feel like it's genuinely, like, when I remember my childhood, like, it kind of is every little girl's nightmare that you'll just like get snatched by somebody, and knowing also that, like, we as the viewer know that she doesn't make it, that she does get caught and die, like, it's really it's like so scary, but also really sad. Like, exactly what happens.
It really adds to the tragedy of the scene. It's the cinematography, like the cross-cutting is so smooth. Like of this, like, and they do some interesting things with it. Like, you actually like, say for instance, like you'll see Athena running in this overhead shot, and then it'll do like this really smooth fade into Tanya, and you see this sort of very literal, as you said, sort of spirit bond between Tanya, this 8-year-old girl, and Athena, this adult woman, as the hunter, Reggie, becomes the hunted. And it's just so well done. It's so immersive. You're really, really in there. Yeah, the tragedy is so palpable of the situation. And you see Tanya, she starts to slow down, catch her breath. She feels like she's lost him in the orange groves. And then she turns around and he's right there and he grabs her and you see the beret fall to the ground.
Yeah.
And then you get this like crazy transition of his foot like hitting that same spot on the earth as he's running away. And and Athena, somewhere along the way, got a shovel, and as
actually,
he like
I don't think we
turns a
ever
corner-
got a shot of where she got that shovel, but this is also
around.
it's effective, but this is also a very Lifetime movie. He turns around and she has snuck up behind him and hits him over the head with a shovel, and she's like,
and we get our Athena one-liner of the episode. It's she leans down to him and she says, "All this time, 45 years you've been hiding in plain sight, but I got you. I finally got you."
yeah,
And then he gets carted off. And
yeah, it's good. It's good.
it's so good.
Bobby comes over and he's like, "Are you all right?" And she goes, "I am now." Like she's kind of, it's interesting. She solved she finally got retribution. She like, ooh, we see her exhale actually. And it's like she's finally gotten that closure for the thing that's been haunting her whole life and kind of been this shadow over her entire career. So she and Bobby walk off away from the orange groves.
It doesn't undo the tragedy of Tanya, but it at least means that those most affected by it have found peace and can perhaps now move on while carrying her memory with them. At the police station, we see Reggie Sr. in an interrogation room, and Athena and Detective Clifford Dixon.
It's important to say his full name every time so people know who we're talking about.
Are looking at him through the one-way mirror, and they put the pieces together of his involvement. They're wondering how exactly he played into this, and so they make an executive decision to have Athena do the interrogation, against procedure, but the reasoning is sound that he would have a much harder time lying to her than to Detective Clifford Dixon. It becomes very clear right away that he knew, and we cross-cut with some more flashbacks of him, helping Junior out with Tanya's body, that he knew
Reggie,
and he was protecting his son.
Right. He says, he's my son, he's my only child. He made it sound like it was an accident. And, how can I not protect my boy? We even see in the flashback Junior kind of manipulating his dad, going, "You care about her more than you care about your own son." It's not that you, feel that much sympathy for Reggie, but you can see that, you can see the reasoning. It's hard for parents to not want to protect their... And, I mean, that's another part of what's so, interesting and just kind of... disturbing about the episode is exploring this idea of a teenage pedophile. Like Reggie Jr. is still a kid kind of, and so you can understand why his dad would feel what am I supposed to do, turn my own son in? But obviously that doesn't let him off the hook, and certainly not when we see what's next, because Clifford Dixon comes in and he's got this box of evidence. And he's like, this is what comes of you protecting your boy. And he starts taking out these bags and putting them on the table. And it's shoes and clothing and other pieces of evidence that's Junior didn't stop at Tanya. We searched his workshop. There were others. He's done this his whole life. And Reggie just kind of looks at it all sadly. And he's like, he said he didn't mean to do it.
I mean, this is the logical conclusion that, it always comes to in cases like these, that this is not an isolated incident. And it's the fallacy that, these people who see themselves as protecting their loved ones, they fall into, that they, it's already impossible to believe that your own child, your own flesh and blood could be capable of this in the abstract. They searched Junior's workshop and they found evidence that he did this to at least 6 girls. and they're still searching. It's just 6 girls so far that they found concrete evidence of.
And earlier when I said that thing about like the ideas that this episode is getting at in terms of like men protecting each other and sort of not what I was getting at earlier with the ideas they're getting at in this episode, there's a line where Senior, as it were, is like, I thought I was protecting him, and the detective is like, too bad you weren't thinking about protecting them, these girls. And it's kind of an interesting thing of how, I'm not going to say it's necessarily a larger thing of like patriarchy, but kind of like, at least on a community level, how like men protecting abusers, like, will create, you might think you're protecting one person, but someone else is going to come at the expense of that, often like women and girls. And it's sad. And it's like, that's why you report your son if you know that he did a terrible crime. Yeah,
it's a zero-sum game. I mean, every ounce of protection you give to this person that you care about comes at the cost of their victim. If you don't do that, if you don't turn in your son or your friend or what have you, it's just going to keep going. It's just going to keep spiraling, and you have culpability for that, So I definitely think it's a element of patriarchy. We see it in action all the time, like certainly during like the Depp v. Heard trial, or on like a local level with like violent men, sexually violent men, or abusive men, that it's often their parents and their friends who rally around them the hardest, because they hit this wall of cognitive dissonance, and it happens all the time, so it's a very real and heavy thing for the show to depict, and I think they actually do a pretty good job of it. they do a pretty damn good job of it.
I guess it's just like they could have gone with Junior or some character like that just because it's a surprising person to have turn out to be the killer, but it feels like there's actually like good thought put towards what they were trying to say with who turned out to be the culprit, and what sort of dynamics were going on there. And I just appreciate that. It's a very well thought out story in general. But back at Joanne's house, Athena is kind of debriefing with her, and Joanne mentions, when the day after Tanya disappeared, Junior came over to my house to see how I was doing. And at the time I thought he was just being nice, but now I see he just wanted to see if I knew anything. The bastard. And we get this healing moment between both Athena and Joanne. Joanne, Athena asks her what's next for you, and she says, I might sell the house, have a fresh start, which is something that she's more than entitled to after all this time, certainly. And she says the only reason she kept the house anyway was kind of like her mom thought, just in case Tanya ever were to come home. Like, she guesses she never gave up hope either. And Athena's like, hope is a good thing.
Rebellions are built on hope, to keep it in the Star Wars theming.
And Joanne's like, it always felt like everyone forgot about her. People were searching for the first couple months, but then they just went on with their lives. And Athena is like, you know what? Not everyone, because I never forgot. This haunted me my whole life. Your sister may only have been on this earth for 8 years, but she had a big impact. I never forgot, and she had this whole impact on my life, and now we've finally solved the case. And they just have a moment together of understanding and healing and empathy.
If you think about it, Tanya is kind of Athena's 9/11. She didn't forget, and she sought justice.
Very appropriate joke on all levels, Ryan. Athena then shows up to the hospital because she's gotten some kind of call telling her to come. She meets Bobby. She's like, what happened? All they said was to hurry up and get down here. And he says, your father's awake and he's asking for you. So they go to his room, and sure enough, Samuel's there and Beatrice is there, and she's like, I've been telling your father about Tanya and about how you never gave up. And Athena gets down there with Samuel, and he's like, it's in her nature to never give up. And she says, I didn't steal it. You and Mama made me that way. And then we get this sort of ending, they've decided to end it on a note of like the Grant family togetherness was so important to shaping who Athena is, which, like, to be fair, hasn't really been the larger theme of the episode, it feels like. But I guess it's a good bookend to like Samuel being exonerated, is it's kind of like, okay, so she did have this great father figure, and that's important to who she is now, and justice was served, I suppose.
Yeah, and Stevie Wonder's Ribbon in the Sky is playing. Like, it's good
Yes.
vibes. Samuel's on the path to healing, from this traumatic stroke and everything. The community's healing. I don't know. I like the ending, even if it's a little thematically like this wasn't really necessarily the angle that we were going for the entire time, but it's fine. It's just, and that's the episode.
Slightly like a little too cheerful of an ending to tack on to what has been such a heavy episode, I guess.
Yeah, I do sometimes wish they would linger on maybe like a not all is right ending, like maybe just like more of a ambiguous, like things will get better in the future ending, and we can end on like a somewhat dissonant note so long as the promise of tomorrow is instilled. But I don't mind the sappiness after the heaviness as well. Like,
well, I'm realizing
I think we kind of earned that.
Yeah,
we kind of earned some sappiness.
And I'm realizing, I was gonna say, like, I think it would have worked to just end on that moment between Athena and Joanne, and I think it would have, but then they would have never resolved like Samuel waking up, so they obviously had to have a little moment there regardless. But I don't know, maybe they could have done no, I understand it now, because I'm trying to think about the structure of the episode, and I'm like, well, maybe if you'd switched around the Joanne scene with the Samuel waking up scene, like do that scene first, but then that might have been too jarring a transition from the news that Junior did this to 6 other girls and then the happy moment. Like it probably works better to have that sort of melancholy, like bittersweet moment with Joanne to kind of bridge those two moments. So fair enough. Fair play, Lindsay. This was a good episode. You did good.
You did good. Yay. Yay, Lindsay. And yay, this episode. How fucking good was this episode? Like,
it's like I said, just like a uniquely... Obviously, it's different from most other 911 episodes, which some 911 fans on IMDb are apparently very upset about. But I think it can be fun to have an episode that's not the same as always. Like, I know we don't love every Begins episode, but sometimes it's really fun to get a Begins episode or like a Boston style episode, right? Where we get more of a deep dive onto one or two characters doing something kind of completely different. And also, like I said, I think that moment in the orange groves is like I said, like maybe one of the most emotionally intense in a positive way moments of the entire show. Like one of the most effectively like serious moments of the show. It's kind of incredible, especially in this season of the show, which otherwise, from what I remember, is so kind of like middling and whatever. that you randomly have. It's like Kyla said, like maybe this specific writer was like, this might be the end, so I have been wanting, maybe she had this idea and was like, I gotta make this happen this season, and really pulled out all the stops, because it's just like kind of like nothing else on the show ever. This
is honestly what I wish Begins episodes would be like more so, is like it's similar in a sense to Chimney Begins in that you introduce a very compelling side character, side story that expands the world in a positive way, expands the world of the show, and makes it feel larger. Whereas you have episodes like Hen Begins, Eddie Begins, Buck Begins, where we're just kind of seeing information that like, either we knew about tangentially or that we didn't, necessarily need to know about, or like they add something, but in a kind of an abstract divorce from the rest of the show sense. Like I would have preferred, like, say if in like an Eddie Begins episode or a Hen Begins episode where we really like went back to their childhoods, this sort of motivating factor that hit them from a young age. To become, that shaped them into the person that they were today, by focusing on something that happened around them, something that happened near them that has implications for their modern life.
Hen Begins and Eddie Begins, and to an extent Buck Begins. This is going to sound pretty brutal, but on some level, a lot of the content of those episodes are kind of like when there's a like live action remake of an animated Disney movie, and they're like, well,
Yeah.
we have to have this scene explaining a plot hole that fans of Beauty and the Beast have been harping on on the internet for a few years, and people are going to love that. Or like, we have to explain this random exposition that nobody actually cares about, because more information is better versus thinking about like, how do I make an emotionally effective story, you know?
I'm talking to a candle. Candelabra, please.
Well, it's good to know that you've seen live action Beauty and the Beast. You know, it's like, we don't
I
need
saw
to
it
know.
in theaters, unfortunately.
We don't need to know like how Belle's mom died. We don't actually, that
Right.
doesn't matter to the viewer.
No.
You just want to see we don't need to know like what, we don't necessarily need to know like what Hen's job was before. Like there are better ways, I think, to figure these things out. Or like
In Netflix Avatar, did we need to see the genocide of the air nomads? Did we need to see, like, was it worth all the money to invest
how
in
else
this
are you gonna
show?
fill out a Netflix length episode?
I don't know, not watching it, not producing it, maybe just rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender on its
Or
own.
perhaps
maybe?
a better example is, we don't really need to see Eddie's boring life in the military. It's enough to have just been told that he was in the military.
Yeah. It's actually better to just have been told it and not see it.
It's like interesting how like in that episode in particular, you don't really get into a lot of Eddie's emotional motivations for anything. It kind of just feels like very dry, perfunctory, like literal explanations of how he has got to this point. Like it doesn't, I mean, and this probably just goes back to the bad depiction of Eddie's inner world in general, but it's like he almost doesn't have a point of view in that episode. It's just like things literally happen. And this, come to think of the Begins episodes, this almost feels like an alternate Athena Begins, and one that I would say is much more compelling than the actual Athena Begins episode. Not that one had nothing going for it, but you know, this feels, which again, I only wish they had maybe incorporated that element of like the local cops being incompetent, because I think that would have worked a lot better as like Athena's thing of like, I'm gonna fix the system from the inside. I think that would have worked a lot better than her just watching the Rodney King riots on TV and being like, somebody's got to do something about this. Like that feels very impersonal in a way, and just like very tone deaf kind of, whereas this is more personal. And even if you don't agree that fixing the system from the inside is very effective, it's like you could understand her perspective there more, I think, if she had this very personal connection to that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And this feels much truer to like the essence of the character, the character that we love and that we know, versus that episode. It's just, I think this episode is much more effective, as you said, in Athena's like psychological motivations, her backstory, and as I said, I wish more Begins episodes would have fallen in line with this kind of storytelling device, but you know, that's what AO3 is for, I suppose. So we'll always have that. So thank you guys for listening to this episode of the First Podcast. We greatly appreciate all of your time and energy. And we hope that you're having a peaceful transition out of Pride Month, because it is now illegal to be gay anywhere you go, even in Mom Donnie's New York, as I am. You know, they're patrolling the streets to make sure that nobody's gay. So, you know, pack it in, homos.
But you know what? This podcast
time
is
for
a safe
America's
space.
birthday.
This podcast
Yes.
is a safe space where you are still allowed to be gay while listening to it.
We're like the Prohibition era speakeasies. Like you can drink
Yes.
here, you can smoke here, you can be gay here. We're
And
very
we kind of
accepting.
just have the front of a 911 podcast for our little operation.
Exactly. Really, we're the place where Velma Kelly goes to do her final bow before she's carted off for murdering her sister and husband. And Roxy Hart is watching on and like in awe. She's Renee Zellweger in the beginning of the movie. It's everything. That's what I imagine all of our fans are. Renee Zellweger in the beginning of Chicago. So if you guys would like to support us and keep up with us on social media, you can follow us at First Podcast, spelled how it sounds. And if you want to support us even further than that, subscribe to our Patreon, where we just put out, and by just put out, I mean at time of recording yesterday, because we're recording this on July 1st. We just put out an episode where we take the plunge and write our own 911 fanfics. Working on commission, I will say. How lovely
Yeah.
to work on commission.
Yeah, we're
I
fortunate.
had fun. I had fun.
had
Didn't
fun
you have fun?
too in the end. It was a challenge, but I think we really delivered in the end. I think you guys will be very happy with what we came up with, hopefully.
Yeah, it's giving art. Don't
It's giving
touch.
art. Ryan wrote a delicious little one-act play that was creepy AF, #creepy AF, and I wrote a little ditty about Eddie finding himself in an interesting situation that may or may not involve One Direction. So you better go check that out.
Martha's influence reigns supreme over.
Yes, I have to thank my
911
directioner sister.
Season 6. Tune in, guys. Thank you guys for listening. And stay out of the orange groves.
And, you know, it's all our usual stuff. If you want to support us more, if you want to follow us on social media, and if you'd like to watch the movie Chicago, apparently it's streaming on Pluto TV right now.
It's on Fupu. It's on Pooba.
It's literally on Hebe.